This past week was another violent one in the district. 3 people were hurt in a shooting in Northwest. A sniper took aim at Edmond Burke School, hitting 4, and there was another officer-involved shooting at the Peruvian Ambassador's residence.
And joining us now live to talk about the uptick in violent crimes in the district is Police Chief Robert Contee. Welcome, Chief. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today. We appreciate it.
Good morning. My pleasure to be here.
All right, let's start with that sniper shooting Friday night in Vann, Ness. What can you tell us? What are the updates this morning?
So we're certainly working very hard with our federal partners to conduct a series of interviews, specifically with family members, to really try to understand and get behind the mind of the individual involved. We know that this person has been estranged, it seems, from his family for some time. So we have a number of devices that we need to go through to really get to the true motive behind this shooting. We're thankful that the men and women of the Metropolitan Police Department and our federal partners were able to respond so quickly, and also to bring this sniper suspect to bring this thing to a close. It's very unfortunate what happened, but I am just so incredibly thankful that more lives were not lost as a result of this.
Yeah, absolutely. It really is just a terrifying situation. It kind of took me back to the situation in Las Vegas with the person perched in that hotel, just looking down on people who have no idea what's coming, and it happened by a school. I'm so curious, did this suspect, do you know so far, have any connection to the school? Do you have any idea how long he'd been planning this? Maybe surveilling the school and kind of seeing how people move about in that area?
We're not exactly certain. It could have been as long as 4 months that he's been kind of monitoring things. We don't know what his motive is. You mentioned Las Vegas. I think about Las Vegas, but I also think about the shooting in Dallas, where several police officers responded, and we had a sniper to shoot several police officers. That could have, just by the mere setup of the situation, that could have certainly been a combination of both of those, Las Vegas and Dallas, that could have unfolded here. The person who was operating from the sniper's nest certainly had the strategic advantage of people who were down below, to include first responders. So again, this could have been certainly a lot more tragic than what we ended up dealing with.
I want to ask you, Chief, about this video that surfaced on social media that I understand you're taking a look at. Allegedly taken by the shooter, in which he said, "Dear God, please forgive me." What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, it appears that this was recorded through one of the scopes on the rifle that was being used, and then posted to social media, or posted to this website. Unfortunately, again, that thing has been viewed all around the world. I think it's very disturbing. I would actually discourage people from watching it. It certainly speaks to the violent nature, and just again, how lucky we are that more people were not injured as a result of this evil act that occurred.
Now, that apartment where the suspect took his own life, do you know, was he renting that apartment, or maybe how he got up there?
Yeah, he was renting the apartment. We know that he's been renting the apartment, it appears, since January of this year. And it appears that from some of the information that we now have, that he may have brought those weapons in there at some point over the course of the prior 24 hours. We're reviewing a number of surveillance videos, and it appears that he may have entered into the building with those weapons and suitcases and so forth. So again, we're combing through. There's a lot of information for us to go through, but we want to make sure that we really have the best understanding that we possibly can of why this person did what he did.
So you went into the apartment, you saw lots of weapons and ammunition in there, and this is where he allegedly took his own life. Do we know if more than one weapon was used in the sniper killings, sniper shootings, I should say, and were any of them ghost guns?
There were certainly more than one weapon inside of this apartment, and it appears that some of the firearms he constructed himself. So in terms of markings and serial numbers, we will probably classify them as ghost guns. But again, the ATF is really combing through all of that. Some of the firearms were certainly purchased legally, but I think we may end up with a few of those guns being weapons that he made himself out of gun parts.
Do we have any information on his background in terms of any other prior criminal acts? Was he ever on law enforcement's radar in the past?
So this would be your typical, what we would classify as a lone wolf. He is not showing up on any law enforcement databases, having been involved in any violent activities or any law enforcement contacts that we could find so far. Again, as we work with our federal partners, we'll do a national and international search in that space to see if there are any contacts that we're not aware of, if there's any history of mental health issues and the like. But so far, as we just kind of churn through some of the information, we're not finding that.
And you say so he was a loner. You are working with his family that you say he was estranged from. We understand there was a police presence outside a residence in Fair Lakes, Virginia on that Friday night. What can you tell us about that?
That's another location that this sniper, in this instance, another location that he occupied. While he had this apartment here in the District of Columbia, he also had another apartment in Fairfax County, where we found evidence consistent with what we found in the apartment here in the District of Columbia.
Let's talk about
sparsely decorated. There were gun cases from some of the firearms that we located here in D.C. So certainly a connection between the Virginia residents and the residents in D.C.
Understood. Let's talk about the victims in this attack. Do you have any updates on their conditions?
Yeah, so the victims in this case, we know one of the persons who received a minor graze wound did not seek medical attention. The other victims, two of the three, received very serious injuries and just, not totally out of the woods just yet. One of those people being a former member of the Metropolitan Police Department. So I'm just asking the community to continue to keep all the victims that are involved, the children from the school, just keep everyone in the thoughts and prayers. This is a very traumatic situation for those students there, for the people who were shot, who were wounded, for the community as a whole, people who were neighbors to this person. It has been very unsettling for our entire community, and I would just ask that we keep each other in prayer.
Just a very scary situation. All right, can I ask you, Chief, quickly about another shooting that happened Saturday morning, and your officers were forced to shoot and kill a woman who was brandishing a gun. This was in Petworth, and we understand she was wearing a special police officer's uniform. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so what we've learned since then, according to this company that she worked for, that she was not a licensed special police officer, although she was donned in a security officer's uniform to include tactical pants, a bullet-resistant vest, a body-worn camera. She was armed with a firearm. The firearm does not appear at this point that it belonged to the security company. So we have to do some backtracking on the firearm just to find out its origin. She supposedly was working as a concierge for this particular company at a location down on 14th Street. There was something happened. There was some erratic behavior that was displayed apparently at her work site. She left the work site and went to the block where she resides. Something happened that resulted in another neighbor being shot and more erratic behavior, which ultimately led to the response of the Metropolitan Police Department, which ultimately led to one of our police officers firing and killing the deceased person at this time.
I know you have to run, Chief, but I do just have one more question. It is kind of a big question, and we're getting into the summer months. We know that violence increases in the summer for whatever reason. We have seen homicides increase this year over last. We have all of these carjackings happening in the city. I love DC. I think it's one of the best places to live and to work. It's an amazing city, but I think people are concerned about the rise in violence. And I know it's not all on the shoulders of police to fix the problem, but what is being done to address it? What do you want people to know?
Yeah, so a couple of things. Let's start at the top where you talked about homicides. Actually, we are one homicide, and I say this in every community. One homicide is always one too many. I don't care what community it's at. And right now, we're experiencing a 12% reduction in homicides. We have 52 homicides this year. In comparison to the same time last year, we have 59 homicides. Last year at this time, what has not changed is the number of people that have been shot. That has stayed consistent, right? So even in that space, marksmanship, a bullet to the left or the right could be the difference between someone losing their life. And that number has remained really the same. The robbery numbers have certainly increased, and I can tell you this, that a fully funded Metropolitan Police Department, making sure that we have the resources that we need is also a very big part of this. I'm going to do everything that I can to deploy the officers where they need to be, work on partnerships with our federal partners to make sure that we have force multipliers in community, to make sure that community members feel safe. But we need to make sure that we're doing absolutely everything that we can possibly do in the space of public safety to ensure accountability and opportunity for individuals who are committing crimes in our city. This is unacceptable by any means. And when I see some of the reasons why people are losing their lives or being shot, the reason why, a simple dispute, when you have this weekend, I think in one of the instances up on Blair Road, some teenagers shoot a person in a wheelchair over, just over a dispute, over a random dispute, that's unacceptable. And when we arrest people for things like that, we had a 13-year-old a couple of days ago responsible for 10 carjackings in our city. That's unacceptable. And we need to make sure that we're doing things that change behavior. We can arrest people all day long, but you cannot arrest your way out of a situation like this, and you cannot program your way out of a situation like this. We have to make sure that the entire city is focused on this. Everyone has a part to play, and we need to make sure that we're really holding people accountable.
All right, DC Police Chief Robert Contee, we know that you have to run right now, but we appreciate the time that you spent with us today. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. My pleasure.